A lymphoblast. Uh, hello? Lymphocyte. Okay? What's left? Neutros, eos, basos. Okay? So, myelo. Now, myelo doesn't mean multiple, but I associate it with multiple because this is one, right? So myelo is going to be giving rise to neutro, eo, baso. Does that make sense? So we got that one great big huge stem cell that's going to give rise to all these blood cells that we think about. So we're going to see them, all right, break off, go into their colony-forming units, and turn into these red blood cells or the white blood cells. All right, I don't know if you guys remember that picture in the book, okay? But the picture shows the great big stem cell and everything breaking off. So, this life cycle that the white blood cell is going to have, the life cycle. The white blood cells, like I've mentioned, they are going to leave and enter the circulation, okay? When we have the formation of these white blood cells, in the bone marrow, it will simply store until they're needed. All right? So if it's producing some and they're not needed right at this moment, they can simply stay in the bone marrow. Now, when we look at granulocytes and the agranulocytes, all right, our granulocytes, if they get produced, they leave in about 8 hours. And they can live 5 days or longer in their circulation. Monocytes, they leave in 20 hours. All right, so under these granules, neutros, eos, basos. Okay, monos, they'll leave in 20 hours. They'll transform into a macrophage once they, so they can move into the tissues, and they can live for several years. Because in some of the connective tissue, now stop and think about this. The job of these cells are my second line of defense. So if my skin gets breached in any way, that macrophage was found in the connective tissues under my skin. Do you guys remember the dermis and the adipose tissue? And one of the things about the matrix of those tissues, it had macrophages, because they are there to begin that line of defense when the outside is breached, trying to come inside.
So you said the monocytes and macrophages are the second line of defense?
Yes, our first line of defense is our skin. Now the lymphocytes, they're special. The lymphocytes, they can give us the memory cells. So therefore, their immunity, the B cells, the T cells, okay? Their immunity can last a lifetime. Now, they don't develop in the bone marrow. They get produced, but they don't develop. They have either got to go to that thymus gland, or we're going to see them become the B cell in the plasma.
Their immunity doesn't get produced in the
They are
their
immature.
their whole cell.
They're immature, so they get produced. But to become a full cell, a full-grown cell, they've got to go to the thymus, and that'll give us the T cells. In the blood, okay, the ones that are going to kind of migrate around in it, because in the blood we find plasma, right? Those are our B cells. And then mature T cells and B cells move to the lymphatic tissue. And they just wait. Once they mount an attack, for the most part, create a memory cell, and that goes back to the lymphoid tissue and just waits. And it may not ever have to be used again. Some of them have a longer memory than others. Okay? Now this is giving rise to them. We have that one big, huge stem cell. And that stem cell breaks off into becoming our white blood cells. The lymphoblast comes from a lymphocytic colony-forming unit. That gives rise to the lymphoblast, which will give us this, the lymph cells. Monocytes, monoblast, monocyte. Colony-forming, immature, mature. Now there are problems that happen with the white blood cells. We have white blood cell disorders, and some of them are more common than others. Leukopenia, a low white blood cell count, usually below 5,000, because about 5 to 10 is usually the norm for the white blood cell count. It could be due to many reasons, okay? The risk that comes along with that, you're more prone to infections. A lot of people who take certain medications, and it becomes interesting, some of those medications that you could take that actually affect your immune system, and that's not something you're told. Found that kind of interesting. Leukocytosis, a high white blood cell count, usually above the 10,000 range. We could have an infection, we could have an allergy, we could have a disease. If it's not really determined what you may have, the doctor may order what's termed a differential white blood cell count. All right? That means they're going to draw more blood, and this time the people who are going to analyze it will determine in that sample that's given which one is in the higher count, which one is an abnormal count. So if it was eosinophils, okay, that could let them know, well, maybe it's an allergic reaction, all right? Maybe it's the parasitic worm, all right? It will help them determine where to begin looking to help with medical treatment.
So which one would be cancer? Like cancer or something, would it be low?
Now are you asking would the white blood cell count overall be high or be low? The liver cancer could actually affect red blood cell count as well as white blood cell count. I would imagine that the red blood cell count goes down, and I would, and once again, I'm just doing my thinking logically here, I don't know. Okay, I have to do some research. The white blood cell count, I would imagine could be either way. It could be low or it could be high. But I don't know.
It says here in the book, that the leukopenia presents an elevated risk of infection and cancer.
So the white blood cell count would be low.
Mm-hmm.
Be low.
And I would imagine the red blood cell count would be low too, because of the livers. But then again, the red blood cell count could actually go high, because if the liver's not functioning correctly, it may not be able to destroy the red blood cells. It may not be able to regulate the heme group. Person could have a high content of the heme, meaning they're going to become jaundiced, which happens with a lot of people who have liver cancer. They begin to get jaundiced in their eyes and their skin and their gums and everything else. So I'd imagine liver cancer could probably affect a lot of the numbers that are found in a blood count.
My mom had low white blood cell count, but it wasn't like abnormally low, it was just a little low.
Okay.
And so I was just wondering if it was just that particular cancer. That's okay.
Different cancers are going to act in different ways. So I think the ones that they might be, diagnosed with probably have a characteristic pattern, because leukemia, the cancer that's in the bloodline, okay, that particular cancer usually has a very high number of the white blood cells, but I think for some of them, the rare, some that can be extremely rare, numbers might be low, but don't quote me on that, okay? I'm saying don't quote me on a whole lot today, aren't I?
But if you go through like radiation and stuff, your counts go way low.
They're gonna go
So
way low.
most cancers will cause you to have
Yeah.
low counts because of the treatment.
Well, now, the chemotherapy,
Right.
because with chemotherapy, you're not just killing the cancer cell, you're killing the good cells. So, radiation is a little more focused on a region, so your white blood cell count might not go as low. So the choice of treatment will affect that white blood cell count. But the leukemias, all right, they can identify some of these leukemias based on what they do see with the white blood cells, all right? They've identified that with some of these leukemias, they've identified the ones that if they look at the blood under the scope, okay, they say, oh, well, because I've got this, it's that. Or if I have this, it's that. Okay, this is stuff that they have identified. The thing about leukemias, don't know if you've ever known anyone who has leukemia, especially the acute one, all right? Had an uncle, within 9 months, from the day they got diagnosed till death. Terrible, terrible, terrible way to go, Chronic, usually not a very long survival time for that, and just disrupts the system altogether.